Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Refuge from Narcissism, and this refugee video is sponsored by contribution from the Selkie that got away. And here's her story. I wanted to get this out while it's still new in my mind. It's only been a few days and already hazy. Just a little bit of my background. I'm 35, female of European ancestry from America. I was raised by a borderline grandmother and a narcissist grandpa, my mom's parents. I have never fully gotten over what has happened to me. In my 20s, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. I'm thinking was actually head trauma plus PTSD from my grandparents, and later was diagnosed with PTSD. I have a history of sexual and emotional abuse done to me. Left my family for good in my early 20s and have a long history of abusive boyfriends and an ex-husband. I am now a single parent as well. I am very shy and don't go out a lot. I have lived fully on my own for almost 8 years now. During Corona, I started online social networking and dating after being single for a few years. I wasn't working or going to school, and I live in a very indoctrinated area by a city that's very PC, so it makes it hard to know how to talk to people, and I feel like I have to be extremely careful what I say. Another reason I went online. I dated a guy in America named M, states away from where I live, for about 5 months, who showed NPD, BPD traits. Okay, now, if you're saying by dating, like, did you guys already establish that you were dating before you even met physically? Because I'm going to put this out there, and I have said this before. I do not take online relationships seriously. I look at it the same way as I would if two 13-year-olds came to me and tell me how in love they are and they're getting married. If you're going to try to get into the online dating swamp, okay, you are going to be fighting narcissistic monsters left and right. He was controlling, and one of the final straws was finding out he lied about his legal name and age. He was 57. He said he was 37, but this letter is not about him. How do you see? This is what I'm talking about now. The first thing this is delusion here. This is delusion here, Selkie. This is delusion. The first thing you need to do when somebody's living in some kind of delusional world is get them back to fucking reality. Okay? Because if this was a real life relationship in reality, there is no way somebody is going to be able to lie by 20 years about their age. How is one controlling online somebody you've never even met? This is because you're living in fantasy land here and taking the rules seriously. I met a guy I'll call K afterwards, who I met on the same site. It's an open platform free speech site, as I wanted to get away from sites like Facebook. We didn't know what each other looked like originally because we both had avatars, but I liked his posts a lot and much of his personality. I noticed he made a post about having fishing jobs and loved the ocean. I loved everything maritime, nautical related, as well as swimming and coastal towns. So did he. We had a lot more interests in common, such as European paganism, survival and bushcraft, permaculture, meat-based diet, conservative social and political views, fine art, folk and metal music, archaeology, military history, firearms, etc. Basically interests that aren't super common nowadays and can put some men off if I'm not super tactful about the way I word them, around where I live anyway. Kay was having problems with some people on the site who were bugging him about his posts on his wall. This is online. This is typical online behavior. I wrote him telling him he should not silence himself and has the right to be himself. We started writing back and forth in order to correspond through email. He agreed, and we started doing that for a few weeks. We wrote long letters back and forth. I found out he was 30 and living in Norway. That was another cool coincidence, I thought, because my mom's side was originally from Norway before we moved to Germany and then eventually the US. He had loads of endearing qualities, but I noticed his mood shifted a lot. I found it strange that we had so much in common, but it never seemed enough. Like he had to find faults in me or reasons we weren't compatible. No matter how small the reasons, he always seemed very sensitive and rigid in his inability to let others have an opinion. But I chalked it up to stress from his background and the corona BS. Silly me. No, this is just how people act online. Everybody's an expert online. Again, you're taking all this online stuff seriously, and it's not reality. None of it. We moved on to a chatting app you can call, video chat, and text on. We were in a relationship early on, and I take responsibility for it moving too fast, but I felt, and according to him, he did too, that we felt rushed because of the risk of another lockdown, among things I won't mention because of YouTube censors. Things started getting glaringly bad when I started noticing his moods would shift rapidly by the hour and would take almost everything personal. This is how online works. This is how message board works. This is how forums work. And you're just getting sucked in to typical forum narcissism. This is why this isn't a relationship. You can't have a relationship with somebody you've never met, you don't know, you've never spoken to, you never talked to, you never touched. This is where we're leading, man. This is where societal narcissism is leading you, to these phony, fake relationships that now you're all twisted up over. This is no different than two 13-year-olds in your high school class telling you how in love they are, they're going to get married. It's the same thing, and you're not seeing it. We could talk for hours. Oh, I'm sorry. Things started getting glaringly bad when I started noticing his moods would shift rapidly by the hour, and he would take almost everything personally. I started noticing more and more how controlling he was and the push-pull dynamics. We could talk for hours and have a good time, and one little disagreement or tiff seemed like all he could remember after all, not after several hours of getting along. Once we were talking about diet and me having stomach problems. He asked if I had allergies, and I told him yes and what. And I didn't tolerate milk or grains, mainly wheat, and that I had read in several sources, people with Celtic and Nordic backgrounds tend to have this issue, that there were some like this reads like internet forum arguments. These are arguments you would see on message boards and on Reddit threads. And you are so immersed in this now, okay, that you're taking it as reality, that you're calling this a relationship. This isn't a relationship. People with Celtic and Nordic backgrounds tend to have this issue, and that someone were the last introduced to our agriculture with the arrival of Christianity, etc. I got to the part about me eating berries, nuts, and seeds. Sometimes I do a keto diet, but more Nordic version, and he lost it. He started snapping at me for eating like that and went on a rant about how we weren't meant to eat anything but meat. He's on a carnivore diet kick. I tried to defend myself calmly and say Europeans are actually omnivores, but yes, mainly meat-based, as they have since at least the last ice age. He starts calling me vegan, brace yourself for black and white splitting, and then vegetarian, and wouldn't shut the fuck up. This is like every message board know-it-all, every forum fight, and you're not realizing you're like married to it. He was ranting for over a half hour and threatened to break up with me. What, via email? This is all online. Like, this is all online. Have you even seen this guy? I mean, have you ever spoken to him? How is this? Well, no, you said there's a new, you're on an app where you can call. I'll share a screenshot of me venting on a Reddit group. Reddit. This is what I'm talking about. None of this is real. This isn't real. This isn't real. Anybody could say anything they want on Reddit. They can make up whatever lies, whatever excuse, whatever lie, whatever life they want for themselves. And you're saying you're in a relationship? This is no different than a 13-year-old telling you she's in love and getting married to another 13-year-old. I'll share a screenshot of me venting on a Reddit group about this, among other things. Again, like Reddit is for 13-year-old girls. Okay, and borderlines with butthurt. That's what Reddit is for. Okay. I'm off Reddit now, thank God, because it's a cesspool of cluster Bs or anti-free speech, like Facebook on steroids. He would threaten to leave me nearly every 3 days since the beginning. We were only dating around 8 weeks or so, and it has been taking on and been talking on and off several weeks prior. I would each time try to do damage control and apologize, even when he was in the wrong, and diffuse the situation. Why? Why do you have such low self-esteem that you are doing this for a message board boyfriend? Apologize to him. Tell him I wasn't leaving as long as he wanted to keep working on the relationship. It's not a relationship. It's not anything. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. That was pointless because he was so combative and thin-skinned. On the internet? You mean somebody's thin-skinned on the internet? You're kidding. You're kidding. On top of every few days him creating drama out of nothing, like me calling him out on how rude he was or a difference in opinion of mine, which was like the end of the world to him. He would say things like, you're better off without me, I'm done, go find someone else, go find Mr. Perfect, I don't know why you're even with me. You're not. You're not with him. And after a while, I felt like he was intentionally playing mind games. I couldn't understand why little tiffs, not even actual fights a lot of the time, or differences in opinion, or me having hurt feelings was such a huge deal to him. Once we were talking about clothes, and I told him how I like to wear simple black clothes in the colder months, and he got defensive because he likes to wear colors. I felt like he kept projecting his controlling tendencies onto me because I didn't even care if he liked to dress different. I almost every time I had a different personality trait than him, he would act like I was trying to impose what I wanted for myself on him, which I thought was ridiculous. It seemed like a huge projection on his part. I told him another time I like to dress up once in a while, and get hostile and he got hostile and said, I'm not going to dress up and you aren't going to make me. I was like, what are you talking about? I never said you had to dress up. If I said I liked eating salads, he would say I wasn't going to make him eat salads. If I said I liked some pop music, I was somehow forcing him to like pop. It was so ridiculous. I felt like I was talking to a crazy person. And you are, but do you understand you're a crazy person for even putting up with this in the first place? The fact that this guy was hyper-controlling and projecting his controlling behavior, and as a matter of fact, projecting all his negative traits onto me while acting hostile and seemingly having a panic attack like I was out to get him. He would act like I was abandoning him while he was abandoning me. It was horrible. The gaslighting and projecting was so extreme, I felt disoriented, and have been oversleeping and having panic attacks for over a week now. I'm sorry this letter is all over the place. I just wanted to love him. I just wanted to love him and be happy. You don't even know him. This is some guy on a forum, on a message board. And you just went from another guy you met on a forum, on a message board. Aren't you getting it? Don't you get it? It's not real. It's fantasy land. I just wanted to love him and be happy, work on our problems together, but every time there was any disagreement or conflict, he acted as if the sky was falling. To sum it up, he showed every male borderline trait you can think of, textbook traits, and this was just over the phone, text, and video chat. Well, how is this a relationship? It's not a relationship. It's not a relationship. And the fact that you're writing into me is so sad. This is sad. He's not your problem. Whoever broke you is your problem. You're saying you were raised by your grandparents. What happened to your parents? You are so abused, you have immersed yourself into the online forum fantasy land. And it is toxic, it is dangerous, it is riddled with personality disorders, and it's not real. They're not real relationships. I'm sure he is a borderline. The forums are riddled with borderlines. Riddled with borderlines. And they all end up on Reddit. Believe me, I have my run-ins with them. Add BPD with some NPD traits and me struggling with codependency and wanting to love him and the relationship back together, and there you go. But this isn't a relationship. A little over a week ago, I wrote him a message on the chat app. I'll send a screenshot telling him my boundaries and I wasn't going to put up with that behavior anymore. I wasn't breaking up. I was tired of him trying to act like the bossy top dog and expecting me to play the beta. I was sick of having panic attacks at this constant mood swings and drama from his argumentative behavior. I figured, you know what? I've tried to be nice and ask him to stop his XYZ behavior, and he just keeps going. I can't seem to have any boundaries, but he can make stupid rules and lash out anytime he feels like it. I'm going to lay all my boundaries out for him and not bend this time, not act like the beta this time. And if he lashes out and tears into me, projects and gaslights or plays games, I'm done. No. You should be done now. Delete whatever app you have that you're talking to him on. Change your number. Block his shit, because this is toxic. This isn't real. You are living in fantasy land here. This needs to fucking stop. This is no different than trying to date somebody in my comment section. Holy shit. You're 43. You said you're 43 years old. online boyfriends. You're basically half a click from dating George Glass. My boyfriend, George Glass. No different. No different. It's not real. You're dating George Glass. For all you Brady Bunch fans, you know what I'm talking about. And you should know what I'm talking about. This isn't real. This is a fantasy you're living so you don't have to deal with relationships in real life. Because you know what I haven't heard? I haven't heard any plans on actually you two physically meeting. None of it. None of it. It's all this stupid online arguing for the sake of arguing bullshit. You want to be... I don't take this seriously. I can't take this seriously. This isn't serious. This is what 12-year-olds do to each other. This is your imaginary boyfriend, George Glass. This is where societal narcissism gets you. This is where these online forums get you. This is where Facebook gets you. This is where Reddit gets you. Okay? It gets you to the point where you're arguing with George fucking Glass. Somebody that doesn't even exist. Fucking Gen X, man. Wake up, Generation X. Wake up. And you got a kid, right? You said you're a single mother. You have a kid who's watching you do all of this. Make a complete horse's ass out of yourself. I've seen people do this on these online forums and chat programs and all that. I've seen it. And these parents who gravitate towards these type of things, these forums, you know what? Know what a lot of them all have? You know what a lot of them all have? They usually have a kid on the spectrum. Psst. Always on a kid on the spectrum. Which is why I have some of the opinions I have about autism. Autism is real. Okay? It's also overdiagnosed. And it's also used as an excuse for bad fucking parenting. I don't know if your kid has on the I hope he's not. But I do know your child is watching you do all of this. Watching you cry and stress yourself out over some fucking dude on your cell phone. Really? Okay, if he lashes out, projects and gaslights, or plays mind games, I'm done. I really didn't want to put me and my teen son in another bad, potentially dangerous situation. If shit did hit the fan in the country, my situation wasn't going to be better or somehow safer with a guy who could potentially get physically violent or just discard us at any given time, leaving us, me and my son, God knows where, in the middle of nowhere, especially in the Northeast in winter, no less. He reacted to my message seconds after logging on with justifying himself, tearing into me with manipulation and guilt trip, saying we were done. I didn't feel like being civil with an uncivil person anymore. I basically called him out, saying, you wonder why I don't feel loved, because the one time I put up solid boundaries, he went all the way and discarded me like I was nothing and trash. I said fuck you to him. This guy has zero emotional regulation skills. His mind games in real time and most exciting and most likely expecting me to the beta some more, chase him, apologize and beg him to stay. My nerves couldn't handle anymore. This was definitely worse than being lonely or alone in shit. This was like trying to find companionship and safety with a ticking time bomb. Me and my son deserve better, not more pain. I got off the internet app we were talking on, and he started blasting me with abusive text messages on my phone. Yes, this is what happens. They then gang stalk you and then shit talk you on the forum, and it never stops because this is how it works. Bunch of fucking piranhas on a feeding frenzy. None of it's real. None of it's real. The relationships aren't real. I told him I wasn't bowing to him anymore, that this was abuse and control, and he was threatening to leave and cancel the plane tickets so I would apologize and beg him to stay, that I was sick of doing that he needed to man up and accept responsibility and try to fix it if he cared, instead of lashing out and projecting his behavior onto me. I said, I will talk to you again when you apologize. I knew not to hold my breath, though, at this point. He kept going from saying he was canceling the tickets to threatening to. Oh, so there aren't plane tickets. Who cares? Everything was a competition with him one-upping. He started projecting all his behavior onto me, calling me a narc and an abuser, using what looked like self-help article methods to handle a narcissist on me. I kid you not, saying he was scared of me, saying I was just psychologically using psychology buzzwords to get my way to manipulate him. This was the projection Olympics beyond belief. Somewhere along this stupid one-sided conversation, I said I was sick of his borderline black and white splitting mood swing episodes, and that he probably picked up that behavior. He probably picked that behavior up from his mom. I felt the whole thing was ending anyway, so I might as well tell him the truth. Maybe he never had stood up. Maybe he had never stood up maybe he had never been stood up to in his adult life. I stopped texting after 1 or 2 messages, I think. He called me over 10 times back to back with full-blown rage psychotic episode. He texted me and was going to find someone better. This wasn't my first or even 5th rodeo with Cluster B, so I thought, yep, here it comes, no surprise there. I was mad at myself for being so shy and only dating men that treated me like dirt. That nerve was raw as ever right now. I finally answered the phone, and he had a saccharine sweet, calm voice and told me I was more or less mentally ill and he couldn't handle being with me. More projection, but wanted to be friends. I know what it means when a Cluster B nut job says, let's be friends. It means rubbing my nose in his new supply triangulation, making me feel like trash, etc. I don't even remember all of what I said, but I remember being angry and terrified. I felt legitimately scared of him at this point. He was even mirroring my fears and concerns I told him weeks ago to him, and making it out like they were his fears and concerns towards me. What the fuck? I felt absolutely 100% like one giant setup of manipulation and evil what he was doing. Here I was this whole time. We were talking over several weeks trying to build a relationship, and he was planning and discarding me as soon as I stepped out of line. You're talking about love. About somebody you never met and you've only known for a few weeks. And the fact that you have this whole story for somebody you've only been with a few weeks and it happened once before, you're the issue here. You're the issue. It's not him. He's a symptom. He's a symptom of your issue, of whatever was going on in your childhood that is making you susceptible to all this bullshit, that is making you run to the cover of that false sense of community of being in an online forum. You're dating George Glass. It ain't real. And for your son's sake, knock it off. I think I said something along those lines to him, and then he said something to the effect of, why? So you can go off on a relationship without me, break up, be back together, and so on, fuck around behind my back whenever you're quote unquote single for 24 hours, 72 hours, or a week or two until you discard me for a good or rub my nose in the new girl you're with. No, fuck that. He said, well, you said you hated it whenever your exes didn't want to stay friends after the relationship ended. More manipulation. He was twisting what I said to fit his agenda. I don't stay friends with my exes because they are abusive shitheads, nor would I want to stay friends once the relationship had become serious. Now I'm wondering if he lied about his exes and had actually been keeping them around this whole time. I told him no and hung up. He kept calling and his psycho text kept going. Altogether for over 4 hours, I deleted his texts and blocked him. I stopped reading them because I knew he was just trying to get in my head, and I knew the more I read them, the more they would. He was also trying to get me jealous, which was working. Ugh. If you're jealous over this guy, that's on you. You got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do on yourself. It ain't about him. Okay, this is sad. This is acting like a 13-year-old girl with a make-believe girlfriend. You're Jan. You're Jan Brady. Congratulations. Here's your George Glass. I blocked him everywhere I could and think I'm going to change my number, actually. I'm so hurt, drained, and disgusted. The only friend I have in person is a woman named C that's moving with her husband and son, my son's friend, to Florida, and neither me or my son have any friends besides that. I quit my job at the animal shelter months ago and have been living off my disability for PTSD. My son and I's activities, including Boy Scouts, have been canceled due to Corona funding. My friend C didn't even offer to invite us down, even to visit. That felt like a slap in the face. They're going to be staying with family, supposedly, but still. So you expect them to invite you to their family? If it's not their house, they're supposed to invite you? Listen, you got some entitlement issues of your own here, Selkie. You really do. You really do here. You quit your job at the animal shelter to live off of disability. I hate to tell you this, the animal shelter is another red flag in the narcissism world. It's a huge one. It's a huge one. Animal rescues, animal shelters, huge, huge, huge red flag. Online communities, huge red flag. I would have to question if you have some borderline tendencies of your own. You're 43 years old. You're talking to me about online relationships of people you've never met. George Glass, Jan Brady. That's where you're at. That's where you're at 43 years old. You're Jan Brady. Because if that isn't my friend, and even if that isn't Marsha, I don't know what is. They're going to be staying with family, supposedly, but still, it felt selfish on her part. No, you're selfish. And here's part of the problem, and this is where your own mask is slipped. Okay? You're the selfish one. Unfortunately, Selkie, you're the selfish one. It felt selfish on her part. I would have done that if I were her. Invited you to somebody else's place on vacation? That might be part of your problem, Selkie. That might be why she's your only friend. Because you have the entitlement of, even if this isn't my place, I'm going to invite other people to it. That is so telling. It felt selfish on her part. I wouldn't have done that if I were her. I felt completely alone at this point, and I feel bad for my son, too. I wish I was brave enough and not shy enough to meet people and make better friends and relationships. Thank you for taking the time to read this. I appreciate your channel. It helps me not to feel alone and defective, as I see you and your wife and contacts you know seem like nice, normal people, but end up not so nice, but keep ending up with not so nice or normal people. I'm currently in therapy, but with every therapist I go to, I feel like they don't understand where I'm coming from or how I end up with these people. It is not exactly therapeutic. I don't want a pity party, but I do want some understanding and legitimate solutions on how to curtail some of my behavior and find new ways of doing things. Thank you for letting me rant. She wants me to look into this guy's eyes and see if it's drug use. I don't know. You can't tell that from a photo. He seems to know an awful lot about cocaine. He said he only currently did pot. He said he used to do Ritalin for ADHD, and he used to be an alcoholic. This is who you're picking? This is who you're picking to be around your son, right? This is who you're picking to be around your son online. This is who George Glass is. Sorry, yeah, George Glass is probably a fucking cokehead, okay, that's going to come in and continue to abuse you. You're going to have to accept some realities about yourself, and number one is you're not living in reality. You're living in this online world that societal narcissism is set up for you, and has got you at 48 years old, where you're Jan Brady dating George Glass. It's not real. It's fantasy. So I hope that helps, and you take what I say seriously. Because for your own son's need, he needs this. Get off the online and start dealing with your actual past. Start dealing with whatever broke you in childhood. Where are your parents? Why were your grandparents the ones to raise you? And I guarantee you that's where the start of all this is. And also you're going to have to adjust your own entitlement issues. So, to expect your friend to invite you and your son to Florida on a vacation that isn't even theirs, that says a lot. So, I hope that helps. Thank you for your contribution and your story. I really appreciate it. Selkie, thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like me to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or you'd just like to make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you guys. Without you, all of this goes away, as I am completely demonetized by YouTube. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Refuge from Narcissism. Take care.